In my past life, I accidentally discovered that my half-sister's fiancé was secretly meeting with a woman in private. I had my parents refuse the marriage on her behalf. The fiancé married someone else, and rumors spread that he and his new wife were deeply in love. My half-sister blamed me every day for ruining her good match. After the woman was granted the title of Madam, my half-sister became consumed with jealousy and, in a fit of rage, set my room on fire, killing me. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my parents asked me for my opinion about this marriage. I smiled and said, "As for my sister's marriage, she will decide for herself." I was reborn back to the day I informed my parents about Julian's affair with the mistress. By the time I realized I was in my past life, I had already told them about it. Both my parents and my half-sister's mother, Amelia, had inclusive live session, had darkened faces. My father, an official in the Ministry of Revenue, was not well matched with the prestigious Marquis family. As the legitimate daughter, I wasn't even qualified to marry into the Marquis family, let alone my half-sister. When the matchmaker brought the marriage proposal, my parents hesitated to accept this sudden windfall. Amelia tried to persuade them, arguing that if they could win the Marquis family's favor, my father would have a better chance at promotion, and the Hector family could rise as new nobility in the capital. Though my father cared about his career, he wasn't willing to trade his daughter's happiness for it. After much discussion, he reluctantly accepted the proposal. However, before the family could even adjust to this joy, I happened to witness Julian's inappropriate behavior with the mistress. My father, enraged, scolded the Marquis family before looking at me. "Chloe, heading so by obsession. What do you think should be done about this?" I stared blankly at him for a moment. It took a while for me to recall this had happened before, too. I had exposed the Marquis family's deceit toward the Hector family, and since Julian's mistress was already pregnant, they chose to marry my half-sister someone from a lower family background. This way, they could more easily control the new wife and use her as a pawn to clean up their mess. If my half-sister had married into the Marquis family, my father would have refused the marriage, citing the hardship she would face. Amelia and my half-sister's expressions darkened, but I initially thought they were also angered by the Marquis family's deception. After careful consideration, my parents rejected the marriage, and Julian married another woman. Though my half-sister's new husband wasn't as prestigious as the Marquis family, he was an ambitious man who loved his wife dearly. Rumors later circulated that Julian and his new wife were very much in love, but I dismissed them as a joke. How could a man like Julian, who was so reckless, ever settle down? It was merely a smokescreen put up by the Marquis family. But to my surprise, my half-sister took it seriously. Every time she heard the rumors, she would blame me for ruining her good match. Her resentment toward me grew daily. When rumors emerged that the Marquis family was going to grant her a title, my half-sister's jealousy reached a boiling point. In a fit of madness, she set me on fire in my room. Amelia, who arrived in a rush, was shocked, but quickly staged the fire as a mere accident, claiming it was caused by water. At my funeral, Amelia and my half-sister wept more bitterly than my mother. Everyone said that the eldest daughter of the Hector family had always treated her stepmother and half-sister with love and respect, which was why they were so devastated it was her karmic reward. But when the guests had left, Amelia's face turned cold. "Miss, I know you never wronged us, but you're dead now. I can't let my daughter pay for it. The duties you couldn't fulfill, your sister Lavender will do for you." This was the family I had cared for so deeply. At this moment, the scene replayed before my eyes. I looked at my half-sister and her mother, swallowing the disgust in my throat as I forced a smile. "Father, since this is my sister's marriage, let Amelia and her mother decide." Amelia's tense face immediately transformed into a smile. "Master, since the eldest daughter has said so, there's no need to reject the marriage immediately. There may be some misunderstanding." My half-sister also looked at my parents eagerly, clearly eager to push the marriage forward, yet trying to suppress her desires. I couldn't help but find it amusing. I decided to step back from the matter. With Amelia's capabilities, this marriage was bound to happen. This time, I was going to see just how good the marriage my half-sister dreamed of really was. After my father left, looking troubled, Amelia gave my mother a somewhat fawning smile. Sister, Lavender is about to marry, and her in-laws are from such a distinguished family. Should we prepare more for the dowry? My mother's gaze shifted, a meaningful look flickering in her eyes as she studied Amelia. Amelia pretended not to notice and continued, otherwise, if the dowry is too small and her in-laws look down on her, never mind whether she'll be happy. But if it harms our Hector family's reputation. She spoke while gauging my mother's expression. And my half-sister, too, showed a hint of fear. Mother, will I cause harm to the Hector family? What if it affects sister's marriage? Seeing my mother hesitate, I chuckled softly, drawing her attention. Isn't Amelia being a bit too dramatic? Whether or not my father agrees to this marriage, even if we do connect with the Marquis family, the laws of Daxing regarding marriage and dowries are clear. The division between legitimate and illegitimate children is also regulated. My parents would never slight my sister. Does the Marquis family dare disregard the law and disrespect His Majesty, making it difficult for the Hector family over a dowry? My mother nodded and gave me a deep look before replying. I regard Lavender as my own daughter. I would never let her dowry be slighted. Amelia, you need not worry. Amelia forced a smile. I was just as concerned. As I had expected, a marriage wasn't cancelled. To show their respect, Julian himself came to deliver the betrothal gifts. Seeing the piles of gifts in the front hall, Amelia's smile nearly reached her ears. Though they weren't married yet, she was already calling him son-in-law. My half-sister stood beside them, her head lowered shyly. Julian glanced at them with a nonchalant look, his arrogance and disdain clearly visible. In my past life, my half-sister's husband was carefully selected by my parents. Though his family wasn't prominent, his character and personality were impeccable. Even after they married, despite my half-sister subtly belittling his family background because of the Marquis family incident, he never got angry. Instead, he worked even harder in the court, gently coaxing her with promotion orders. Julian, however, looked at my half-sister's blushing face with amusement, lifting her chin. My future little wife is quite the beauty. His words made her cheeks flush even more. And Amelia grinned broadly. Only my parents' faces dark and at Julian's rudeness. Amelia gave me a subtle look. Her eyes filled with meaning. So what if he has a mistress? Isn't he still smitten by my Lavender? For the sake of appearances, my parents still invited Julian to dinner. At the table, aside from a few polite words with my father, he acted arrogantly and frivolously. His gaze toward my half-sister and me crude and revolting. When he left, my parents' faces were heavy. Amelia stepped forward to comfort them. The Marquis family is high-born, so it's understandable that their children have some attitude. His gaze on Lavender clearly shows he's fond of her. Once they are married and become part of our family, even if it's not because of your position at court, they will certainly show more respect to the Hector family because of Lavender's maternal side, Father said, giving her a glance before leaving with a flick of his sleeve. Mother, too, fell silent and followed him out. Amelia turned to me, pausing for a moment before speaking. Miss, this marriage with the Duke's family is a rare opportunity for Lavender. Could you perhaps help persuade Father to pay a little more attention to it? I raised an eyebrow and chuckled lightly. I'm just a junior. How could I possibly interfere in my younger sister's marriage matters? She furrowed her brows and stared at me as though she didn't recognize me, inspecting me closely. I wasn't sure how Amelia had persuaded Father, but the marriage was ultimately settled. In my past life, I had worked tirelessly for my half-sister's wedding and dowry. After she got married, I fell ill from exhaustion for half a month, unable to attend the homecoming banquet I had carefully prepared for her. This time, however, I simply sat leisurely in the courtyard, basking in the sun. It was easy and carefree. Leela, my maid, couldn't bear to watch any longer. Miss, aren't you worried at all? Do you know what Amelia and the second miss have been saying about you? I smiled without responding. I already knew. It was nothing more than that I was jealous of my half-sister's good marriage. deliberately fabricating a scandal about Julian's mistress. And that I had been avoiding everyone these days because the Duke's family hadn't chosen me, the legitimate daughter, but instead had gone with her. I had heard this kind of gossip for years in my past life. Leela pouted in dissatisfaction. Miss, you've always been so sincere to them. But they don't trust you at all. Once the second miss is married, they'll be the ones who suffer. A sarcastic smile tugged at the corners of my lips. See? Even a little maid could understand this logic. Yet they, mother and daughter, couldn't. Just how alluring were the powerful and influential to make them knowingly pursue something impossible. All for the sake of ambition? The wedding date for my half-sisters soon arrived. Before that, the Duke's family had sent Julian over several times to show their importance. But each time, he was just as arrogant and disrespectful. Father had wanted to call off the marriage several times, but Amelia always managed to convince him otherwise. The day before the wedding, I made sure to send someone to inquire about Julian's mistress. At first, I was just curious to know when he planned to bring her into the family. However, I found something unexpected. Julian had been quarreling with the mistress lately. In an attempt to placate her, he promised not to stay in the bridal chamber on their wedding night. From one perspective, Julian was a rather rare type of lover. He truly seemed to care. On the wedding day itself, I didn't know whether it was intentional or accidental, but the wedding procession was delayed. The guests exchanged looks, and to the outside world, it clearly seemed like the Duke's family didn't care much about the marriage with the Hector family. Father's face turned dark, and Mother's expression remained indifferent. I suddenly remembered how, in my past life, I had exhausted myself planning this wedding, making sure everything, not only for our side but for the groom's family as well, was double-checked. After the wedding, I worried about her being mistreated in her husband's family. Not only did I ask Father to discipline her husband, but I also often brought her new things to check on her. For years, I had loved her, choosing the best path for her. Yet, for a mere rumor, she killed me. She locked me in the room and watched as the fire consumed me. Her resentful words echoed in my ears. Chloe, if it weren't for you, it would have been me marrying into the Duke's family, enjoying the wealth and glory. I would have been the one idled as a noblewoman. Your jealousy of the Duke's family choosing me. That's why you fabricated the story about the mistress. Right? You're so vile. It turned out that everything I had done for her, all the care I had given, was seen as jealousy. After so many years of genuine kindness, I had raised a wolf in sheep's clothing. Remembering all this, I spoke calmly. Father, Mother, don't worry. Perhaps the procession was delayed due to some mishap on the road. I turned to Amelia with a smile. Good things take time. Lavender is lucky to have such a good marriage proposal from the Duke's family. They will definitely treat her well. Don't you agree, Amelia? Amelia, who had seemed a little anxious earlier, immediately regained her composure and pride. Of course. Lavender's luck is yet to come. The smile never left my lips. I, too, was curious without my interference. Just how much wealth and glory would my half-sister truly enjoy? When the Duke's family arrived, Amelia immediately puffed up like a victorious rooster. However, the next day, as soon as I entered the front hall, I heard the sound of a teacup shattering. Father was so enraged that his fingers were trembling. Father, there must be some misunderstanding. The heir clearly likes Lavender so much. How could he not stay in the bridal chamber on their wedding night? Amelia's face darkened. She paced back and forth in the hall, muttering to herself. How could the Duke's family do such a thing with no sense of propriety? I couldn't help but laugh. If the Duke's family had any propriety, they wouldn't have allowed Julian to keep a mistress. Having 3 or 4 wives is normal, but taking a mistress before marriage is a sign of poor manners. Father stormed off angrily, but Amelia blocked his way. Father, Lavender is also your daughter. If she suffers in her husband's house, you can't just ignore it. Her words only made Father's expression darker. If it were a matter of politics, he could speak up, but how could he intervene in matters of a daughter's household? With a darkened face, he left. Amelia, Realizing there was no way forward, turned to me. Miss, hadn't förstått wide session. Lavender is your sister. Please. Think of a way. I raised my gaze coolly. The Duke's family is of high status. And even father doesn't know what to do. What can a woman of low status like me do? Her words were completely shut down. But soon, Madame sigh. Amelia regained her composure because she received word that Julian had been reprimanded by his elders, and was now required to sleep in the bridal chamber that night. And next day was my half-sister's homecoming. Amelia, brimming with excitement, was already dressed and waiting in the main hall. The Duke's family must have known they were in the wrong because they prepared a lavish homecoming gift. Amelia, overjoyed, didn't even notice that my half-sister's face looked far from healthy. Julian was doing his best to play the role of a loving husband, carefully assisting my half-sister as they entered the house. If you ignored the careful way she acted in front of him, they almost looked like a couple deeply in love. However, when Julian wasn't around, my half-sister couldn't hold back her tears. Mother sat silently beside her. Amelia, seeing the bruises on my half-sister's body, was so furious she almost cursed, but she stopped when she saw the Duke's family's mater stands. I took a sip of tea and smiled. Amelia, if the Duke's family was truly a noble house, they wouldn't mistreat their new wife. This is just the playful way of young newlyweds. Amelia's face turned from green to red, and she couldn't say a word, but when I returned to my courtyard, my half-sister followed me in. She stood beside me, staring at me intently. Is there something wrong? Her gaze was filled with hostility. Sister, do you really hate me this much? Huh? I have always lived in your shadow since I was young. And now that I've been chosen by the Marquis family, you are obstructing me at every turn. When did I ever make her live in my shadow? I fell silent for a moment and then asked. So, how do you feel about being married into the Marquis family? I am now the young mistress of the Marquis family. A woman of high status. Respected by everyone. What's so bad about it? She raised her voice slightly. I asked again. You say I've been obstructing you. But let me ask you, does Julian not have a mistress? Curious. She slammed my cup down. What can a mistress do to me? She will never be in the spotlight. Never seen in public. Her gaze was filled with venom. And a chill ran through me. That look was so familiar, it was exactly the same as the last time we locked eyes in my past life. I steadied my emotion slightly before replying. Is that so? But do you think you can truly hold on to this powerful position? Without waiting for her to react, I had the maid escort her out. This time, I wasn't just letting her be. I had plans. The revenge for my death in the previous life, how could I not take it? Having power is not the same as holding on to it. If Julian brought that mistress into his household, he would undoubtedly make her feel threatened. Combined with the words I deliberately provoked her with, I didn't believe she would sit idly by. Julian agreed to marry under the condition that after the wedding, he would be allowed to bring his mistress into the household. On the 5th day after the wedding, he caused a ruckus in the mansion. Even the official documents from the government didn't arrive in time, and he brought his mistress in as his concubine on the same day. The capital was abuzz with rumors that the Marquis family's young mistress was magnanimous, allowing her husband to take a concubine just after their marriage. Of course, the tone carried an air of gossip. At the same time, my father had chosen a suitor for me. But when I heard the name, I almost choked on my tea. It was my half-sister's husband from my past life, the eldest son of the Minister of Personnel. Ivan. I shook my head helplessly. My father really did have a soft spot for him. He was a good man. And I had no reason to refuse him. When the two families began discussing the marriage, I heard that the mistress, emboldened by her favored status, had repeatedly provoked my half-sister. After several encounters, my half-sister couldn't take it any longer and slapped the mistress. And it just so happened that Julian saw it. In retaliation, Julian slapped her back, and due to his jealous nature, he confined her to the courtyard for a month to reflect on her actions. Amelia came to see me. Miss, would you consider going to the Marquis family to check on Lavender? I raised an eyebrow and laughed lightly. Amelia, you're her stepmother. You can go to the Marquis family too. Why don't you go? She opened her mouth but paused before responding. I'm just a stepmother. The Marquis family must value status. If I went, they might think our Hector family doesn't care for Lavender. And they could even bully her more. I smirked twice. You know full well that the Marquis family is out of our reach. And that you're just a stepmother while Lavender is an illegitimate daughter. Still, you agreed to this marriage. And now that it's turned out this way, seeking my help is useless. She looked as if I had hit a nerve. Her voice rising. Chloe, hadn't so filled my head. Sorry. She is your sister. You're being so harsh today. But who knows when you might need her in the future? Lavender is now the young mistress of the Marquis family. I waved my hand dismissively, signaling for her to leave. You're right. I'm of low status. So I wouldn't dare covet being the young mistress of the Marquis family. I'll stay away from the Marquis family. Amelia threw a cup at me. Don't come begging me later. A month later, when my half-sister's house arrest was lifted, she immediately returned to the mansion, just as Ethan came to visit. When my half-sister arrived at my chambers, Ethan was brewing tea for me while discussing some interesting happenings in the court. He was a scholar, with a scholarly air about him. His brows and eyes were gentle, and his speech was equally kind. I thought I would feel uncomfortable around him, but surprisingly, I didn't. In fact, I felt quite at ease. I couldn't help but think that my half-sister in my past life was truly ungrateful. When Ethan saw her approach, he had the good sense to say, Chloe, I should take my leave now. I nodded slightly and noticed my half-sister's gaze lingering on him. Once Ethan had walked out of sight, she finally shifted her gaze. You're really enjoying yourself, aren't you? She picked up her cup, but in her agitation, it slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. Chloe, you're laughing at me, aren't you? Her words seemed to come out of nowhere. What did I do? You used to pretend to be close, calling me sister and whatnot. But now that I've married into a prestigious family, you can't stand it, can you? You even had my stepmother beg you for help. How dare you? I couldn't help but laugh in exasperation and immediately told her to leave. Before she left, she sneered. You and that mistress won't get away with stepping on my head. I noticed she was clutching her abdomen, so I guessed she must be pregnant. But the unexpected came sooner than I thought. Just half a month later, rumors spread that my half-sister and the mistress had a confrontation, both falling into the water. The mistress, heavily pregnant, miscarried during the struggle. My half-sister fell unconscious for 2 days, and the baby was barely saved. Such a huge incident forced the Hector family to step in. My lord, you should go check on Lavender. She is your daughter. After all, if she's being bullied in her husband's house and you don't intervene, she might not survive. Amelia knelt on the floor, clutching my father's sleeve, her tears falling softly. He was always soft-hearted, but this time, he only said, the matters in the inner court are for the lady of the house to handle. Madam will go. It was unbecoming for a mistress to have a quarrel with the legitimate wife. And it involved matters of offspring as well. The nature of the situation had changed entirely. Amelia immediately recognized the unspoken message, jumped up abruptly, and pointed an accusatory finger at my father. In your eyes, is power and face more important than your own daughter? How can you be so cold-blooded and heartless? Lavender's marriage to the Marquis family was for the Hector family. For your career. My father slapped her across the face. Enough. It was the first time I had seen him so enraged. I was shocked, my heart trembling slightly, but I quickly composed myself. I, Hector, will never sacrifice my daughter's future for personal gain. Do you not know how this marriage was arranged? Or are you pretending not to know? Amelia was stunned by the slap, her voice trembling. I was wrong. I was just overly worried. Please, my lord, calm down. My father looked at her with cold, silent eyes. But he knew there was no turning back now. Amelia was eventually confined to house arrest for a month and ordered to transcribe 10 volumes of Buddhist scriptures. But the Hector family still had to make a visit to the Marquis family. Mother took me to the Duke's residence. On the day we went, Ethan came to see me. News of my half-sister's situation had spread quickly across the capital. There were many whispers about the Hector family's failure in raising daughters, with many claiming that this was the reason for the scandal. I thought to myself, perhaps the Ethan family would call off the engagement. So, when I saw him, I was somewhat surprised. However, Ethan seemed oblivious to the rumors. He simply handed me a food box. The Duke's family might make things difficult for you. Don't take it to heart. Once everything is settled, I will ask my father to meet with the Hector family to set a new wedding date. Is that all right? Because of my half-sister's matter, I had little hope for marriage in either of my lives. But today, perhaps it was the alluring blue of the sky, or something else, but I felt a flicker of expectation. A smile deepened on my face. All right. Upon hearing my agreement, Ethan's smile grew warmer. He helped me into the carriage and stayed until I was far away before he left. When I arrived at the Duke's residence, the Duke's old matron and Julian's aunt were already waiting in the hall. The atmosphere was delicate, filled with an unspoken tension. Mother and I performed our courtesy. Not wanting me to face the interrogation, she sent me to visit my half-sister. To be honest, I would have rather stayed there than meet with my half-sister. After all, it didn't matter to me much what was said left ear in, right ear out. This was my first time at the Duke's residence. A servant led me to my half-sister's courtyard. The attitude of both the Duke's family and the servants toward us was distinctly peculiar. But it didn't bother me much. I spent the walk admiring the beautiful scenery of the Duke's back garden. I began to understand the worldly obsession with money and power. Even something as small as a flower pot in the Duke's residence seemed to be of exceptional quality, worth a small fortune. My half-sister's courtyard was also quite nice. But once inside, I felt a sense of stagnation. A heavy air. Husband, have you come to see me? My half-sister's voice, deliberately soft and sweet, echoed from the inner room. The servants withdrew, and I entered alone. As soon as she saw me, my half-sister's previously delighted expression turned cold. What are you doing here? I casually sat on a chair not far from her. Although it wasn't cold, she was covered by a thick quilt. I'm naturally here to see you. She clutched the quilt tightly. I don't need your feigned sympathy. I nodded. I didn't want to come either. But your quarrel with the mistress has caused quite a stir. People are saying that the Hector family has failed in raising daughters and harmed the Duke's heirs. Her face turned pale. Such nonsense. I didn't harm her. She fell into the water herself and dragged me down with her. It's that vile woman who tried to harm me. She tried to harm my child and got what she deserved. I watched as she became frantic. In truth, I believed what she was saying. But what good would it do for me to believe her? Besides, wasn't this what she had wanted all along, a good marriage? I asked. You've always sought a higher marriage. Are you satisfied with this good match now? Her back stiffened for a moment before she sneered. Chloe, hadn't fulfilled my sigh. Are you waiting to watch me make a fool of myself? Then you'll probably be disappointed. Now, I carry the Duke's only grandchild in my womb. And it's the legitimate heir. Now that I have him, no one can step on my head, not even you. Once I have this position, you'll never reach the heights I've attained. Not even with the Ethan family. She strangely mentioned the Ethan family. And I frowned slightly. But I also realized that we no longer had anything left to discuss. Still, I asked, do you truly believe I've never been sincere with you? Do you truly hate me this much? Exactly. I hate you for being so high and mighty. For being so hypocritical. I wish you would die right now. She ground her teeth as she spat those words, full of venom. If she weren't so weak, I would have thought she might leap at me and strangle me. This time, I met her crazed, cruel gaze. Just like in my past life. I realized then that I no longer felt fear. I didn't say another word. I stood and left the room. There was nothing left for us to say. Mother didn't come to find me until much later. When I saw her, she couldn't even muster a fake smile. Mother? I held her steady. Her hands were terrifyingly cold. She remained silent, only speaking after we got into the carriage. I shouldn't have agreed to let her marry into the Duke's family. She forced a bitter laugh. Our Hector family. Will probably be Rue, and because of her. I was shocked. How could it be so serious? Mother took a moment to calm herself before continuing. The mistress lost her child. And Julian, heartbroken, has asked that once Lavender's child is born, she be given to the mistress to raise. It was utterly absurd. The Duke's old matron would never agree to something like that. Mistress's children are raised by the legitimate wife. Never the other way around. This wasn't just about favoring the mistress over the wife. It was a ridiculous farce. No wonder Mother would say the Hector family was doomed because of my half-sister. If this were to happen, the Hector family would become the laughingstock of the entire world. Has the Duke's family said anything else? Did the matron agree to this? Mother slowly shook her head. Julian threatened to kill himself. She had no choice but to agree. He was the Duke's only legitimate son. They all knew how absurd this was. Yet they were forced to agree. Mother suddenly grabbed my hand. Her voice trembling. The only way to save the Hector family now is to ensure Lavender can never. Mother! I stopped her from finishing. She snapped back to reality. Her fingers trembling as tears fell uncontrollably. Chloe. How do I explain this to the ancestors of the Hector family? I fell silent. Because I had no answer. My half-sister was being kept in her courtyard, resting in peace as she carried the child. The months passed, and her pregnancy grew more obvious. The atmosphere in the Hector family was heavy. Ethan often came to accompany me. He repeatedly assured me that this matter had nothing to do with me, that neither the Hector family nor I had done anything wrong. The world wasn't so divided into black and white. I watched my parents grow more weary by the day. In this second life, for the first time, I began to question whether I was doing the right thing. Then the turning point came, and I was a little disoriented. Julian's mistress, filled with resentment, stormed into my half-sister's courtyard with a dagger and stabbed her in the stomach. My half-sister fell into a coma for half a month. She lost the child, but she barely survived. With such a scandal, no matter how much Julian favored his mistress, he couldn't protect her anymore. A mistress was nothing if she died in the backyard. It would be forgotten. I didn't see my half-sister again until 2 months later. She had lost the child, and even after 2 months of recovery, her complexion remained pale and unhealthy. On a scorching hot day, she wrapped herself in a thick cloak. In just 2 months, Julian had taken 5 concubines. He despised and hated my half-sister. But she was the legitimate wife. Brought into the Marquis family in a grand procession, he could not easily discard her. He ignored her health and carelessly forced himself on her, ripping open her clothes angrily. He sneered. Didn't you want a child? I'll give you one. Her body couldn't bear such violent actions, let alone the burden of being pregnant. In those 2 months, she had been pregnant once. But it was only for a month, and before she even realized it, she had miscarried. What was even more ridiculous was that the Marquis family, just like in her previous life, actually granted her the title of Lady of the House. My half-sister sat in the Hector family's front hall, her hand trembling as she held a teacup. Our parents refused to see her. Amelia was under house arrest. I sat face to face with her. She shakily drank several sips of tea before suddenly collapsing to her knees in front of me. Sister, I want a divorce. Please. Beg father for me. Ask him to get the Marquis family to agree to it. She must have already said this to Julian. Perhaps Julian was unwilling to let her go. The person he loved most had died because of her. And the title of lady was the chain that bound her. Didn't you want to marry into the Marquis family so badly? I was wrong. I was truly wrong. Sister. She knelt before me. Please. Beg father and mother for me. If I stay in the Marquis family, I will die. Julian is not human. He just wants to torment me to death. Sister. Please. I beg you. I pulled back the sleeve she was clutching and spoke coldly. Isn't the title of lady exactly what you always wanted? She trembled all over, her eyes wide with shock and fear. You. I ignored her fear and continued. When did you start thinking about this? My half-sister, like me, seemed to have been reborn. She stared at me in disbelief. How do you know? I didn't respond. And her fear deepened. I remembered something after I fell into the water. But I wasn't sure. She stammered as she continued. Later, when I was injured and unconscious, I saw everything. I chuckled softly. And all the emotions I had been holding back dissipated in an instant. At first, I had wondered if my half-sister in this life had done nothing wrong, marrying Julian as she did. But now, with her memories of the past life returning, receiving the power and title she had once desperately yearned for, was that exactly what she wanted? Sister, in my past life, I never really intended to kill you. It was my stepmother who misled me. I only wanted to teach you a lesson. I regret it now. It was my stepmother who stopped me from saving you. She said that if I did this, I would be the only daughter of the Hector family, and father would wholeheartedly support Ethan. Sister, I know I was wrong. Please, help me. Please. She knelt on the ground, begging as she knocked her head repeatedly. Dust from the floor stained her forehead, and fresh blood slowly trickled down. It was then that Julian arrived. What is this slut doing? With a loud slap, Julian sent my half-sister crashing to the ground. You are my wife, the young mistress of the Marquis family. How dare you kneel at will? Don't embarrass me. Get back to the mansion. Now. My half-sister lay on the ground, too weak to rise. Julian immediately ordered for her to be carried away. Sister, save me, she pleaded in agony. I watched her being taken away, without saying a word. When our parents learned of this, they didn't say anything either. The day my engagement to Ethan was set, our parents finally showed the long-lost smile. Since the incident when Julian took my half-sister away, she had been confined to the courtyard. On the day Ethan came to deliver the engagement gifts, somehow, she had gotten word of it and somehow managed to sneak out. She ran all the way to the Hector family's gates. Looking disheveled, she grabbed onto Eve and desperately. You can't marry her. Our parents' faces turned pale with fury. Send the second young lady back. I am the young mistress of the Marquis family. Who dares to touch me? Her gaze turned cold and threatening. But when she looked at Ethan, it softened. Ethan, you can't marry Chloe. You should marry me. You married me in your past life. You loved gardenias. You loved steamed bass. And you always asked me to embroider handkerchiefs and pouches for you. Don't you remember? Ethan's face turned stone cold. I don't know how the young mistress knows my preferences, but I've never taken your handkerchiefs or pouches. Please be careful with your words. Don't let Chloe misunderstand. Her words left her speechless. In the previous life, she didn't love Ethan. So, when Ethan pestered her for handkerchiefs and pouches, she had never given them to him. Now, he was wearing a pouch I had personally embroidered for him. My half-sister yanked it off and threw it to the ground. Nonsense. You must be angry with me. Let me embroider for you now, and you can take me away. Okay? Seeing this, my mother, who had been suppressing her anger for so long, could no longer hold it back. Lavender, I've treated you sincerely, and I don't blame you for not believing me. I don't blame you for tarnishing the Hector family's reputation. But now you want to ruin Chloe's marriage and talk nonsense here. How can I tolerate this? My father was shaking with rage. This is madness. Send the second young lady back to the Marquis family. Immediately. Hearing this, my half-sister became terrified. No, no. I won't go back to the Marquis family. I'll die there. I don't want to marry into the Marquis family anymore. I don't want to be a lady anymore. Please. Sister. Help me. She reached out to grab me, but I stepped back, avoiding her. Ethan moved to shield me. This action infuriated my half-sister. You're all trying to harm me, she screamed. Chloe, having fulfilled my obsession. You're the worst. You knew what would happen if I married into the Duke's family. Yet you didn't stop me. It's all your fault. Everything is because of you. It's you who ruined me. In a fit of madness, she pulled out a dagger, aiming to kill me once again. But Ethan reacted quickly, blocking the strike. The dagger fell, and his arm was cut. Servants rushed to hold my half-sister down. Father closed his eyes, exhaustion evident on his face. Take her back to the Duke's residence. My half-sister screamed and struggled. But her mouth was soon sealed. Only then did the chaotic scene finally come to an end. I heard later that my half-sister had gone mad. But no one from the Hector family went to see her. Amelia fell gravely ill, and could not recover. Ironically, Ethan and I were set to marry on the same day that my half-sister had married him in my past life. I had thought of asking father to reschedule, but all the other good dates were already pushed to next year. Ethan? Feeling wronged, said Chloe. I want to marry you as soon as possible. So, I let it go. The past life was just a fleeting memory now. My half-sister had already paid for her actions. On the day Ethan and I married, the weather was beautiful. The ceremony was lively and grand. It was the next day when I heard of my half-sister's suicide. She died on the day Ethan married me. I knew she wasn't trying to make trouble for me. She was mourning the life she lost in her past. Amelia, having been ill for so long, didn't survive the winter. When it was revealed that I was pregnant, it happened to be on New Year's Eve. It was a double celebration. On the first day of the new year, when I paid respects to my parents-in-law, they gave me to read envelopes. The snow had fallen the night before, and Ethan carefully helped me back to our rooms. I laughed at him for being so nervous. He smiled gently, his eyes soft. But he still held my hand tightly. End of the story. On the eve of the engagement, I caught Cedric cheating with his childhood sweetheart. I stood at the door and watched Cedric smile calmly. Jocelyn is too delicate. I'm using you to practice first. The childhood sweetheart's face changed. But she still clung to him. You do have feelings for me. My heart turned cold. I would rather reject such twisted love. That night, I submitted an application to study abroad. Later, I left as I wished. But Cedric went crazy. Darling, I'm here. Aren't you happy? A spoiled, affectionate voice echoed in the room, clear and startling to my ears. I watched Cedric lift Lydia's bright face, his gaze lingering on her features as he gave a lazy smile. Stop making a fuss. Lydia, I'm getting married. You didn't really think I'd give up Jocelyn for you, did you? Impossible. You know I hate family-arranged marriages. Lydia dismissed it, looping her slender wrist around his neck like she was Copuffus. What's so great about Jocelyn? Admit it. Cedric, you have feelings for me. She leaned against him, her fair fingers tracing patterns. Charming and alluring. Cedric looked satiated, red marks streaking his chest. He held Lydia's wrist, stroking it gently. His upturned phoenix eyes cold. Lydia, you're overthinking. If you really want to stay with me, fine, consider yourself my practice partner. The door was slightly ajar, and I stared in shock at the scene. The man angled in her hair, embracing her intimately, was my fiancé-to-be, Cedric. Not long ago, he had held my hand and made a solemn promise. Jocelyn, marrying you is my greatest wish. But now, he was rolling in bed with his childhood sweetheart. Lydia, whispering sweet nothings. After their act, they were both sweating profusely. But I felt as if I had fallen into an ice cave. Lydia's eyes were watery, her voice frail. Cedric, when will you break off the engagement? Break off the engagement? Lydia, I'm not kidding. I really have no feelings for you. I'm just using you to practice. The flirtatious atmosphere in the air vanished instantly. Lydia saw the seriousness in Cedric's eyes. He wasn't joking. Her face paled, tears welling up, her bright beauty turning fragile as she trembled and demanded, Cedric? Say that again. What's there to say? Get out. Jocelyn will be here soon. Cedric threw clothes at her, his face faintly impatient, though his words were cold. I saw a flicker of pity in his eyes. After all, they had grown up together. How could he not care when Lydia cried? I felt like I was drowning in ice. I was Jocelyn, the one he had vowed he couldn't bear to touch, the one he promised to cherish forever. But what was he doing now? I couldn't understand. Lydia refused to give up. She threw the clothes aside, her curves fully exposed in just a slip. She sobbed and threw herself into Cedric's arms, tears falling in big drops. Even I felt pity for her. Do you hate me so much, Cedric? I don't care. You promised when we were kids that you'd be good to me forever. Jocelyn doesn't deserve you. Cedric leaned down to wipe her tears. His gesture casual and dismissive. The corners of his eyes curving like peach blossoms. All right. Stop crying. Childhood promises are long gone. So pathetic. He picked her up. His tone lazy yet chuckling. I just said leave now. Not that I'll abandon you. After the engagement with Jocelyn. You can keep coming to me. Jocelyn is too frail, she can't handle me. Lydia bit her lip, raising her tear-streaked, beautiful face. Cedric? What am I to you? A plaything you summon at will? Cedric's gaze suddenly turned bold and reckless. He parted his thin lips and uttered a deeply insulting word. Lydia froze. Then cooed, Cedric. Since you like excitement, I'll play along. Who am I to refuse you? Cedric checked his watch and roughly grabbed her waist. Again. Jocelyn will be here in half an hour. They returned to the bed, rolling together shamelessly. A chill soaked through my body, nearly making me lose my balance. I rushed to the bathroom and vomited violently. Staring at myself in the mirror, red eyes. Pale face, I barely recognized myself. I leaned against the wall, crying silently. Tomorrow was my engagement to Cedric. He had asked me to meet him at 3 p.m. to pick out engagement tea pastries. I arrived early because of a strange text. Jocelyn. Go early. You'll get an unexpected surprise. When I received it, I suspected someone was trying to sabotage my relationship with Cedric. I called the number, but it was unreachable. After debating, I decided to come early. Curiosity got the best of me. Now, seeing it with my own eyes, I knew the text was true. I never imagined Cedric could be this person. The Cedric family was one of North City's most prestigious, and as their heir, Cedric was unparalleled among young nobles. My family, however, was a minor player in North City's business scene, and I was a neglected outcast. My parents doted on my sister, pouring all resources and affection into her while dumping me on my grandmother until I turned 18. Logically, Cedric and Dione on cloud 9. The other in the dust should never have crossed paths. Yet he broke through all barriers to pull me out of my bullied shadow. He shielded me from all harm, standing before me with a gentle smile. Jocelyn. Such pretty eyes shouldn't cry. When we started dating, his parents opposed us, forcing him to break up and marry Lydia, a family friend. Cedric resisted, taking 30 lashes and spending half a month in the hospital. At his grandfather's birthday banquet, he announced to everyone that he would marry me. His love seemed so bright, and I thought I had found my belonging, only to realize it was all an illusion. My phone alarm rang. It was time. Lydia must have left by now. I used powder to cover my swollen eyes, ensuring I only looked slightly frail. Then I pushed open the door as usual, forcing a gentle smile. Cedric. He was fully dressed. The room spotless, no trace of the chaos from half an hour ago. Cedric took my hand affectionately, his eyes soft. Jocelyn. Your hands are so cold. His tenderness only reminded me of how those same hands had gripped Lydia's waist half an hour ago, making me sick. Yeah. It's windy today. I subtly pulled my hand away and coughed softly. He immediately patted my back with concern, whispering, Jocelyn. If you're not feeling well, we can skip today. I forced a smile. It's okay. As we looked at pastries, Cedric stared at a lotus-shaped one, chuckling as his fingers lingered, reminiscing. I knew of the lotus tattoo on Lydia's waist. Despite knowing this, I had to pretend nothing happened. Speaking softly as usual. Cedric, do you like this pastry? Let's choose this one. I had no choice. Without love, I had to protect my future. There was another reason I agreed to be with Cedric. At the time, our company had failed to secure funding, and my father, desperate, remembered me his adult, somewhat attractive, and docile daughter. Adult meant no legal issues. Somewhat attractive meant I could be traded for profit. Docile meant I was easy to control. So my father decided to marry me off to a 50-year-old divorced man with 2 children in exchange for funding. He had the nanny hold me down. Jocelyn, after all these years I've raised you. It's time to repay me. Those were my darkest days. I had just received admission to the top domestic pharmaceutical research institute, with everyone congratulating my bright future. But my biological parents forced me to give up my studies, become a stepmother, and ruin my life. I tried running away, even threatening suicide. Nothing worked against the man's casual comment, "A fiery temper is good." In my rage, I smashed everything in the house and tried to set it on fire. But they threatened me with my grandmother, forcing me to obey. When all hope was lost, Cedric arrived. He smashed a wine bottle over the man trying to force alcohol on me. "Shattering my father's dreams. Selling your daughter for glory, how shameless." He reached out to me through the chaos, his phoenix eyes clear. "Jocelyn, come with me. I'll protect you from now on." I took his hand. And for years, he kept his promise. After my grandmother died, my family spent fortunes sending my sister to top art schools but refused to support my education. Cedric paid all my research institute fees, funded my projects, and protected me every step of the way. He said, "Jocelyn, pursue what you want." 5 days ago, my mentor told me about a study abroad program. "Jocelyn, you have talent. Don't get stuck here. Apply, and the spot is yours." After much thought, I refused. Studying in Germany would keep me away for at least 5 years. And I didn't want to disappoint Cedric. But now, after discovering his affair with Lydia, I replied. My mentor supported me. In 3 days, I would leave for Germany. Confronting Cedric now would only anger him. With the Cedric family's power, they could pressure the institute to reject my application. I couldn't let that happen. So I had to delay the engagement and stall Cedric for 3 days, hiding any clue of my plans. The lotus-shaped pastry was brought out, and Cedric nodded in satisfaction. "This one." With the pastries chosen, the engagement was tomorrow. As a nobody, I couldn't change the Cedric family's chosen auspicious date, but Lydia could. The Lydia family was equally powerful, and she had the clout to disrupt everything. When I got home, I opened my chat with Lydia and typed, "Miss Sue, will you attend my engagement with Cedric tomorrow? As someone who grew up with Cedric, you're like a sister to him. He must want your blessing." Lydia came from a noble family, spoiled and arrogant. When Cedric and I were together, she targeted me relentlessly. Today, she had just slept with Cedric, and now I was provoking her. With Miss Sue's temper, I knew she wouldn't hold back. With such a fiery temper, she would definitely make a huge scene, at least ensuring the engagement banquet wouldn't proceed smoothly. 3 minutes later, Lydia replied, "Don't worry. I'll definitely come to bless you tomorrow." Even through the screen, I could feel her gritted teeth. I was also looking forward to tomorrow. When there's anticipation, time flies. The engagement banquet was grand. Although Cedric's parents were angry he chose me as their only heir, they didn't skimp on formalities. Wearing a gown, I held Cedric's arm with a gentle smile. As we exchanged rings, I silently counted the seconds in my head. At 20, commotion erupted in the silent hall. Lydia, wearing a wedding dress, walked onto the red carpet with a beaming smile. Our eyes met, and I clearly saw the provocation in hers. "Cedric, we vowed to be together as children. You can only marry me." Lydia didn't disappoint me. She marched right up to Cedric, lifting her delicate face to stare directly at him. I'd never seen such a complex expression on Cedric's face. He frowned coldly, shielding me behind him with a frosty voice. "Lydia, are you insane?" Undeterred by his resistance, Lydia snorted, ran to the window, and teetered precariously. "Cedric, choose: either cancel the engagement, or I'll jump." Below, Lydia's parents exclaimed, "Lydia!" Her mother panicked, grabbing Cedric's sleeve and weeping, "My boy. Save her. You grew up together." Cedric's hand clenched and unclenched, squeezing my wrist painfully. His eyes seethed with dark rage. Yet he looked helpless. Finally, Hanan fulfilled my obsession. He released my hand with apologetic eyes. "Jocelyn, I'm sorry." I softened my expression. "It's okay. Saving lives matters more." Cedric rushed to support Lydia, holding her tightly with a tender gaze. Miss Sue. Stop this. The engagement is cancelled. Lydia cried. And Cedric soothed her. Jocelyn's parents smiled in relief. Yes. They were well matched. A natural pair. I stood quietly, feeling neither sorrow nor joy. Cedric remembered me then. Gently reassuring, Jocelyn, we'll hold the engagement banquet again in a few days. I smiled softly, okay. My phone screen suddenly lit up, displaying a message from my mentor, Jocelyn. Remember to book the flight. Cedric read the message, his face darkening inch by inch. He looked down at me. Eyes icy. Smile lazy yet cutting, Jocelyn. Where are you going? His expression was so cold it made my heart race. Lydia stopped crying, staring at him in shock. The entire banquet fell silent. They all knew Cedric had never been even-tempered, especially with those he cherished. Once, someone admired his antique vase and offered double the price. Cedric smashed it over their head without flinching. A year ago, a friend in his circle, influenced by Lydia, pushed me into a pool. Later, Cedric broke their arm and threw them into the pool, along with everyone present that day. Cedric might not truly love me, but he absolutely refused to let me, as his fiancé, slip from his control. I couldn't gamble my future. I chuckled, nestling into his embrace as usual. It's not me. My mentor is going abroad for an academic seminar and asked me to book his flight. You know he's elderly, I always handle such things for him. Cedric's expression softened slightly, and he was about to escort me home when Lydia threw another tantrum, insisting he take her to the hospital. Leaning on her mother, she sobbed, Mom, my heart hurts. Cedric hesitated, glancing between me and Lydia. His father frowned. Cedric, calm Lydia first. You've already broken off her engagement, do you want to drive her to jump again? His father shot me a look of disgust. Bad luck. Ever since Cedric got with you, there's been no peace. Though Lydia had disrupted the banquet, his words reeked of disdain for me, blaming the outsider for ruining their perfect union. In his eyes, Lydia was the future daughter-in-law he'd watched grow up, while I was just a disaster his son had impulsively chosen. The guests, all from North City's elite, mostly belonged to Cedric and Lydia's circle. They openly mocked me, the insignificant outsider. Truly small town, no class. Wonder how she seduced Cedric. Serves her right, the engagement got ruined. I instinctively grabbed Cedric's sleeve, as I'd done many times, but he pulled away, abandoning me to the gossip. My chest ached dully, as if crushed by a blade. Loyalty truly was fleeting. Cedric would never have done this before. When he'd broken off his engagement to the Sue family to be with me, his father had nearly beaten him to death. He'd refused to yield, telling me not to fear. Now, with his father insulting me, he turned a blind eye, focused solely on Lydia. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Lydia's triumphant smile, and suddenly remembered the pitying look she'd given me the day Cedric broke off their engagement. Though rejected, she hadn't been sad, provoking me. Jocelyn, do you really think he loves you? You're just a tool for him to rebel against his parents. But even as a tool, I'd gotten what I wanted. Night fell, but North City remained brightly lit. I sat on the sofa, lost in thought. 3 years with Cedric, impossible to claim I'd never cared. He'd rescued me from darkness, protected me, given me everything I wanted. A WeChat notification interrupted my thoughts. Younger sister. The Germany research trip won't end for 5 years. If you have concerns, tell me. Head angel filled my sigh, and I'll speak to the professor. It was my senior, Vincent, a rising star in our research institute. He'd mentored me for years, and he too had a spot on the Germany trip. After much deliberation, I called him. Thank you, senior. I have no concerns. I've decided to go, and I've sorted out my affairs here. Vincent's clear, warm voice came through the line, slightly distorted. I heard you're engaged. Won't your fiancé mind you going abroad now? Cedric messaged me. Jocelyn, there's a big deal abroad. I'll be away 3 days. Take care. Was he really going for business? Lydia, a popular influencer, had clearly jaded herself in the Arctic on social media. The hand in her photos was unmistakably Cedric's. I exited the chat. Voice soft but firm. Senior. He won't mind. We broke up. Tortuous lie. I opened Lydia's profile again. Today. She posted about watching the aurora in the Arctic. Her glowing face framed by the vibrant lights. She leaned in a man's arms, making a peace sign, carefree and happy. The man showed only a pair of affectionate phoenix eyes, hugging her tenderly. The caption read, "Fate can't be childhood love. Mr. X. After all these twists, it's still you by my side." Lydia often shared stories of her and Mr. X, their childhood bond. Skipping class to explore the school back hills. Playful flirting. Mr. X singing at his desk to cheer her up after she was wronged. Even fighting 5 people for her. She gained many fans. She'd also mentioned me, calling me a scheming green tea. A weepy little white flower. Her followers hated me, threatening to dox me. Now that she and Mr. X were together, her comments were flooded with congratulations. Witnessing true love. Yes. The little white flower got dumped. Childhood sweethearts forever. A rational netizen asked, a few days ago. You said the person you liked was getting engaged. Now you're traveling together? Is this a rebound, or are you the other woman? This comment became trending. Attacked by Lydia's fans. Love has its order. She stole your childhood sweetheart. They're in love. What's it to you? A tear fell on my screen. I touched my face, realizing I'd been crying. While I grieved our relationship, thousands envied theirs. I typed, "The aurora is beautiful. Wish you happiness." Lydia quickly replied, "Glad you saw it." Her reply only fueled suspicion, though she deleted it soon. Still, her fans confirmed I was the other woman. Countless netizens attacked me. But I simply posted photos from our pre-engagement shoot with the caption, "The innocent need no defense." Public opinion shifted to target Lydia. An hour later, Cedric's family reposted Lydia's post with, "Our family's young lady." He'd chosen to abandon me again. Facing a flood of hate messages, I deleted my account. Cedric called over a dozen times. Anxious yet exasperated. "Jocelyn. That's just Lydia's temper. She throws little fits. Why argue with her? She's been crying non-stop." "Right. You already proved whose side you're on." Cedric paused. Then said, "Apologize to her. Our families are close. Offending her will make my parents dislike you. Do it for me. Okay?" I swallowed my tears. My voice trembling, "Okay." Suddenly, my heart felt cold and aching, causing my hand holding the phone to tremble. Of course. People like them only protect their own. Never reason. Several messages popped up in the chat box from Lydia. "Jocelyn, I know you're reading this. I told you. Cedric is only with you to rebel against his parents. You asked for humiliation. You stole him from me for 3 years. Now that your dream of being Mrs. Cedric is shattered, it's time to return him to me." I wiped my tears and replied, "Fine. He's yours." 3 days passed quickly. Clutching my ticket to Germany, I arrived at the airport. I told no one. After I left, Cedric's anger would be the first gift I bestowed on my parents. Vincent waited for me at the airport, tall and elegant, rightfully nicknamed the pride of the research institute. He took my suitcase and called gently, "Let's go, junior sister." While checking in, I received a message from Cedric. "Jocelyn, I'm back. Going home soon. I brought you Greenland gemstones. Shall we set them in our engagement ring?" The gemstones were crystal clear and radiant, truly beautiful. My heart was calm, for I'd just seen them in Lydia's moments last night. She wore a necklace with a similar gemstone, larger and of better quality. Mine was merely a flawed, inferior product. Just like Cedric's love, his most sincere feelings were reserved for Lydia. I turned off my phone and laughed at myself. Cedric and I would never have a home. When he returned today, he'd find only an empty room. "Junior sister, you seem sad." I was startled by Vincent's perceptances. I turned to him with a faint smile. Before I could explain, I glimpsed a familiar figure out of the corner of my eye. Black hair, phoenix eyes, cold gaze. It was Cedric. He watched me standing beside Vincent, a half smile on his face. Jocelyn, don't you owe me an explanation? My face paled instantly. My heart pounding. How had we crossed paths? Cedric smiled, but his eyes were astonishingly cold. He stepped forward and snatched the ticket from my hand. Germany? What are you doing in Germany? Jocelyn? I involuntarily stepped back. But Cedric stubbornly grabbed my wrist. His expression darkening. Answer me. I lowered my eyes and said softly. Just taking a break. A break? Do you think I'm a fool? Jocelyn? Who is he? Looking at Cedric's impatient face. I suddenly found courage and met his gaze calmly. You can go to the Arctic to see the aurora with Lydia. But I can't take a break? Cedric's expression soured. Behind him, Lydia smiled sweetly, the gemstone around her neck gleaming. Jocelyn, are you jealous? Don't worry. Cedric and I are just friends. She raised her chin, disdainful of me, and said arrogantly, otherwise, how could you have a chance with him? Lydia leaned close, bending slightly so only we could hear. Jocelyn, you're just a replacement. Don't you dare take yourself seriously. She grabbed my hand, leaned back sharply, and slammed into the corner of the conveyor belt. My calf instantly bled profusely. Cedric shoved me aside and gently helped Lydia up. Vincent steadied me, keeping me from hitting the shop decorations. Lydia paled. Jocelyn, I know you're upset, but Cedric and I really have nothing going on. Leaning into Cedric's arms, she lowered her head and said softly, I didn't do anything when I was mocked for being dumped. Why would I start now? Cedric had broken off his engagement with Lydia to be with me, making her the target of ridicule. He'd always felt guilty. Now, old and new grievances collided. Cedric looked at me with sharp, icy eyes. Jocelyn, I've given you status. Why aren't you satisfied? Or do you hate her this much? I suddenly found it ridiculous. My expression cold. If you feel sorry for her, you shouldn't have broken off the engagement. But it's not too late now. Cedric, let's part ways amicably. This was the first time I'd shown stubbornness in front of Cedric, different from my usual compliance. He froze, his eyes full of mockery as he laughed coldly. Part ways amicably? Don't forget, without me, you'd still be crying in that fat Walter's arms. Jocelyn, someone like you would be eaten alive without a man's protection. Despite expecting his coldness, I trembled with anger. Cedric, is this how you've always seen me? Isn't it true? Could you live a privileged life without me? I held back tears, my voice hoarse. Cedric, I could thrive in the research institute without you. Cedric's eyes were arrogant, dark malice swirling in them. Without me, could you even get into the research institute or participate in multi-million projects? Your mentor is an academic giant. Do you really think he'd let you join his team without the building I donated to the institute? He looked down at me like a disobedient pet. Jocelyn, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Everything you have is because of me. The airport air conditioning was strong. The air wasn't cold, but it felt like a knife cutting my lungs as I inhaled. I stood there, stunned. 3 years together. I thought we were in love. But now it seemed that in Cedric's eyes, I was nothing but a compliant prop for him to rebel against his parents. My heart suddenly ached violently, rendering me speechless. Vincent stepped in front of me, his voice clear and firm. Mr. Cedric, thank you for your contributions to our institute. But Jocelyn earned her place through her own efforts. Our mentor chose her for her talent. Cedric's phoenix eyes lifted slightly, cold anger beneath his sharp brows. Since when it hit me sinister light through the flickering smoke. Fine. Jocelyn, you're so bold now. Planning to run off with this bastard. The boarding reminder sounded. My flight to Germany would depart in an hour. I didn't want to linger. I snatched the ticket from him and pulled Vincent away. Stop. Did I say you could leave? Cedric's handsome features held a hint of ferocity. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. Hugo. Sue Airlines is your grandfather's company, right? Help me stop someone. Soon, let out a low sigh. A staff member approached me politely. Ms. Jocelyn, I'm sorry, but your flight has been cancelled. Cedric looked down at me, a flicker of pity in his eyes. Jocelyn, why do this? When I saved you from Walter. You should have known everything has a price. Can you really leave? The Cedric family provides the Institute with 50 million annually. Changing a spot is easy. Our wedding is soon be obedient. Suppressing the coldness in my heart, I closed my eyes and forced a smile at Vincent. Senior. Go ahead. Wish you a smooth trip. Vincent held my trembling hand. His eyes calm as he asked. Junior sister. Your hands are cold. Are you afraid? He leaned down to wipe my tears. His voice gentle. Don't be afraid. The mentor entrusted you to me. I'll protect you. Under Cedric's icy gaze, Vincent pointed to his phone and said proudly. Better follow the law. I've notified your father. Just then, Cedric's father rushed over, sweating, and greeted Vincent with a smile. Despite being the elder, his tone was respectful. Vincent, sorry for Cedric's trouble. I failed to discipline him. Behind him, Cedric exclaimed in disbelief, Are you crazy? Dad? He was met with a sharp slap from his father. You're the crazy one. Do you know who he is? He's from the capital city Vincent family. Why do you think I let you throw money at the research institute all these years? Come home now and stop embarrassing us. Lydia shrieked and covered Cedric's face. Uncle. Why hit Cedric? It's Jocelyn who's unfaithful. Shut up. Cedric shook her off and stared at me. Vincent lowered his eyes to shield me from Cedric's gaze. Serious as he said, Junior sister. Don't be afraid. His influence can't reach me. He paused, his eyes softening. Congratulations, you're free. As we turned to leave, Cedric crushed forward and grabbed my wrist tightly. His eyes red at the corners like a soaked stray dog. Jocelyn? Do you really have to go? Realizing I was serious, he stumbled over his words. I only asked you to apologize out of anger. How can you leave? We're supposed to get engaged in a few days. I chose your favorite flowers. Vincent tried to pull him away, but I stopped him with a wave. Facing Cedric directly, Cedric. There's nothing left for me here including you. I might as well have considered the man who saved me 3 years ago dead. This was the first time I'd stood on equal ground with Cedric. I no longer feared for an uncertain future or worried about his attitude. Cedric stubbornly held my wrist, his voice choking. Will you come back? It's okay, I can wait for you. I tried to pull away. No need. Wish you both happiness. Cedric stared blankly as I walked away, lunging toward me just as I was about to pass through security. His eyes were bloodshot. Finally realizing that the Jocelyn family's power couldn't restrain me, that he had no leverage left to keep me, he clamped his arms around me, his expression dark and voice icy cold. I won't let you go. Annoyed, I slapped him sharply. What the hell do you want? Vincent pulled Cedric away, his gaze frosty. Mr. Cedric. Control your son. Cedric's father broke into a cold sweat, signaling the bodyguards behind him. Restrain the young master. Don't let him through. Shackled by bodyguards, Cedric watched dejectedly as I cleared security. As the plane took off, I overlooked the land below, feeling a surge of relief. It rains a lot in Germany. Junior sister. The professor asked me to tell you to take care. I flicked a charm on Vincent's bag, deflecting his concern. Senior. You sent that text message, didn't you? Vincent froze slightly, adjusting his gold-rimmed glasses. His almond eyes narrowed, calm and composed. I don't know what you're talking about. Junior sister. Your pupils shake when you lie. Senior. Fine. The professor was right, you're the smartest in the institute. Vincent chuckled, his eyes gleaming. How did you figure it out? I pointed to his phone. The text's location tagged. He waved his phone, crossing his long legs with a playful smile. Just from a location? How could you be sure it was me? I smiled slyly. I guessed. Why did you admit it so easily? Senior? Vincent turned away with a sigh. You're too clever. I was bound to slip up. I gazed at the clouds. Thank you. The plane landed smoothly. Germany was colder than I expected, raindrops immediately kissing my face. Don't catch a cold. Vincent draped a coat over me. And for the first time, I truly felt free. After unpacking and settling into my room, I finally checked my phone, swamped with missed calls from Cedric and my parents. I picked up one randomly. And my father's anxious voice spilled out. Jocelyn. How could you go to Germany without a word? Why didn't you discuss it with us? I laughed. My voice blending with the rain. Discuss what? You already sold me once. Planning a second sale? Jocelyn. What are you saying? The company needed cash flow, I had no choice. And you didn't marry Walter in the end. Did you? Fed up with his excuses, I cut to the chase. Spit it out. What do you want? Just a small thing. Cedric suddenly pulled his investments. And the company's cash dropped. We've lost several orders. Can you talk to him? You're barking up the wrong tree. We broke up. Before hanging up, I couldn't resist adding. Funny how you can send your precious daughter millions for art school but can't save your company. Cedric called right after. His voice trembled. Jocelyn. Are you mad about me taking Lydia to see the aurora? Let me explain, I cut him off coldly. No. I'm breaking up with you for a different reason. He froze. What reason? I told him calmly. I was at the door when you slept with Lydia. No. Jocelyn. Listen. He rushed out. But I interrupted. Fine. Talk. Cedric fell silent. Typical, he never spoke when I gave him the chance. Let me help you, I said. You wanted to have both of us. You loved the idea of keeping me while clinging to Lydia. He sighed deeply. No. Jocelyn. Lydia means nothing compared to you. She's just a plaything. My smile turned icy. You think that makes me forgive you? You disrespected both her and me. You sickened me, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. Cedric. After blocking him, I looked out the window. The rain had stopped. And sunlight streamed in. Life in Germany was fulfilling. Though research was tough and experiments complex, I embraced every challenge. The next time I heard about Cedric and Lydia was through a friend's forwarded headline. Cedric and Lydia heiress brawl at engagement. Families on verge of collapse. My friend laughed. Jocelyn. You should have seen it. Cedric flipped out at the engagement. Smashed the champagne tower. Lydia's no pushover, they fought right at the banquet. She's in the hospital now. I raised an eyebrow. Why? What sparked it? Seeing she threw his dime and ring away. Wasn't that the ring you gave him? Now both families are at war. His parents are livid, his dad beat him all night with a family rod. Serves him right. I chuckled. It does. As I shared the news with Vincent. Cedric's mother called, sobbing. Jocelyn. He had a 3-day fever after the beating. His father posted 8 guards to watch him. But he tried to jump off the balcony to find you. I had to sneak him out. He's in Germany now. He's my only child, please don't provoke him. Talk to him nicely. Just then, let out a low sigh. The doorbell rang. I knew who it was. Behind the door stood Cedric, flushed and feverish. Forcing a weak smile. Jocelyn. Even if you didn't wait, I came to you. He coughed. Nearly collapsing into me. I sidestepped. And he stumbled into Vincent. Who drushed over. Careful, having to right sigh. Dad, Cedric. The atmosphere turned awkwardly tense. Cedric stood up, frowning, his arms covered in wounds. His mother hadn't lied. He'd been brutally beaten. His voice was fragile. Almost pleading. I've reflected. Jocelyn. I was wrong. But I truly love you, you were never just a rebellion. What happened with Lydia was a mistake. You'll never see her again. Vincent saw him and eyes narrowed. His finger brushing the mole under his eye as he scoffed. Since when does Dad, Cedric beg like a beggar? His disdain made me want to laugh. Cedric saw the amusement in my eyes. Tentatively grabbing my sleeve. You smiled. Jocelyn. Does that mean you forgive me? I shrugged off his hand. Done with his act. I don't recycle trash. Cedric. Leave me alone. You're a nuisance. His eyes dimmed. After a long moment, he released me and collapsed at the door. With a sigh, I sent him to the hospital and called his mother to retrieve him. Peace returned. Half a month later, Vincent and I made a breakthrough in our research. At the team celebration, I saw another message from my friend. Cedric has a 1-year younger illegitimate brother now. The family's in chaos, stock prices plummeted, and they're all over the news. I was moving forward. Let them stay stuck in the past. I turned off my phone and raised a toast with a smile. To science. To freedom,